Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Check it out. We're doing a pool test in my backyard before we take this thing out to the ocean. This is the Geneinno Poseidon 1 underwater ROV submarine. And if you missed the unboxing, go ahead and check the link in the description. I'll also have a card pop up here. What I like to do is an unboxing, a pool test in calm water, just in the pool, make sure everything's working, see how it works, line of sight. And then the next video is going to be out in the ocean, see how it does in the ocean water. So for this review, I've just got the iPad. Unfortunately, I could not lock onto the Wi-Fi with 3 Android devices, so I'm stuck with the iPad here, just direct link from the iPad to the Wi-Fi buoy there. And we're just going to dunk this in the pool and just see how it even works in some fresh water, really calm water, see what all the controls are like. So anyway, let's get started with the Poseidon 1. First thing you want to do is plug in the buoy, screw this little connector in here. Then we take the other end, and that's how that thing works. See how it just unravels and the Wi-Fi module spins with the reel stand. Then we take this one again and just plug it right in here, all the way in, screw it in tight. There we go. So that's the ESCs and everything just kind of booting up. Okay, so the Geneinno popped up on the Wi-Fi. Cool. So we'll close that up and then we'll go and launch the Geneinno ROV application. Okay, and there we go. So I'm seeing some video already. I'm just going to go right into the controls. There we go. So hopefully you guys can see my iPad here. And what we need to do is just dunk this thing in the water. I'm going to go ahead and turn the lights on first. So pushing the flashlight here on the iPad. Looks like you got to kind of push it twice. And I don't think I'm going to record my screen for this one. So this will just be on my hat cam. You'll see the screen. So there's the video. It's looking good. Just dropping that thing in the water. We'll start off in slowest speed. That's the slow speed there, the 1. And we'll just try to bring it down, I guess. Okay, so I'm pushing. Okay, so that's reverse thrust on the motors. You can see that there. There's turning left. Let's go down. Let's submerge. So you can see how slow this initial speed is. Very, very slow. So this would be for like, if you're really just, there we go. I'm seeing some air bubbles kind of come out of the sub. Okay, so this would be if you have a really calm condition, have it in the super slow mode, or if you're deep and you're not being ripped around by the current and stuff. Okay, so we're just resting on the bottom. Let's go ahead and go up. So I'm pushing up on the right control. And this is kind of interesting. We're not coming up. Stuck on the bottom. Let's try speed number 2 and push up. So kind of stuck on the bottom. That's interesting. That's kind of scary if you ask me. Pushing up. There we go. Okay, it's like we had to go into number 3 mode there. So let's see what it does. I'm just going to kind of let it sit here. Let me turn on my hat cam light and so you guys can actually see the sub. And I just want to kind of, sorry about the dirty pool. It's rather dirty. So this is kind of interesting. I'm pushing full blast up. And it's having trouble getting off the ground already. I had to reverse for it to kind of get up. It's almost like it's just sinking. There we go. Now it's working. Okay, let's just see what it does if we're in speed 3 and we're just letting it sit in this fresh water. It looks like it is sinking. Okay, so you saw it just sank to the bottom. So a little bit concerning how it's a little bit difficult to go up. Keep in mind this is speed 3, so this is how this thing is moving around. So up, let's see if we push full down. Okay, we are getting a little bit of spout. So it submerges super quick, but coming up, let's full blast up. You can see how it's a little bit awkward coming up. And when we do turn, it's not really stabilizing its horizontal axis. You see when we turn like this, how it's getting a little bit skewed, kind of like what the Power Ray would do. It just doesn't have two motors on top, so it's going to be kind of moving around like that. Okay, what I want to do though is I want to press this button here. I'm thinking that might be like a depth lock. Let's see what it does. Okay, so I pushed it there. It's like that little thing at the top right of the screen. There's the lights, by the way. That's how bright they are. Not incredibly bright, not as bright as some of the other ones. And you can see how that when we went full reverse, it just kind of did one of these reverse and up things. Let's go full forward. Whoa, it's definitely super quick. Okay, well that's good. It's got a lot of thrust forward and back. But what I am seeing though is now that I push this depth lock on, it's not sinking quite as much. It looks like it's maintaining its depth in the water, so that's good. Let's see if we turn that off. Let me get to a position where you guys can kind of see this without being blinded. Okay, and let's turn that depth lock off. And it looks like it's just going to sink to the bottom when I do that. So you saw that? Now it's all the way resting on the bottom. You can kind of see, let me turn off my headlamp. You can kind of see the screen, how it's resting on the bottom. Let's turn the depth lock on when we're on the bottom here and see what it does. Okay, so that's all that is. It looks like it is a working depth lock. But check it out, I'm stuck on the bottom, pushing up full throttle. It's having a hard time coming off the bottom. Full throttle forward, full throttle back, and I can't get off the bottom. Let's take that depth lock off and try again. So I had to take the depth lock off and then hit full throttle reverse to get unstuck off the bottom. I'm noticing when I'm giving it full throttle, watch the lights dim just a little bit. See that? Little bit of a light dim. So it's sucking the juice. Full throttle up again. And if I go forward, I can't get unstuck off the bottom. But if I'm full throttle up and I go reverse, see how it just kind of arcs up. Now I'm going to hit my depth lock. So definitely if you're in freshwater, use that depth lock, because what that's going to do is it's going to try with that vertical motor, it's going to try to maintain its depth. And it does look like it's doing it fairly well. So I'll keep that on. With the salt water, it's definitely going to be more buoyant. So since I don't have a hardware control, I just want to see how easy it is to control this thing. So I'm going to roll out a little more tether so that tether's not hindering it. We can see we have the diagram on the screen, the kind of the orientation of the whole thing. So when I do kind of go forward, you can see that the sub, it's a little bit of a delayed reaction with that graphic on the iPad there. Okay, so not entirely, the refresh rate isn't that accurate. Let's see what the latency is of the video. Turning, little hiccup in the Wi-Fi there. Let me get something in view here. I'll kind of go down a little bit, see how easy it is. There's a little gun there. Let's go back to rate 1. So this will be the slowest speed, probably for viewing stuff really carefully. And so this is where we're showing some issues where I want to face it down to actually get something below it with video, and there's no way for me to do that unless I pull all the way down on the right stick. And you see how now I'm resting on the ground. So if you wanted to get footage of something down in the ocean, for example, you'd have to like rest on the sand or rest on coral, and that's kind of scary because you might mess up your vertical propeller. But that's the only way I'm able to get this little toy gun here. I can't go forward, I'm stuck on the ground. I can move left and right a little bit to keep it in shot. You see that? Now I can't move left anymore because I'm stuck to the bottom. And pushing full throttle up, This is in rate 1, keep in mind. So having a hard time getting off the bottom just in this little kiddie pool. Anyway, there's the image does look nice and crisp though. I'm trying to follow this thing. So combination of forward and to the right kind of gets me going there. Let's try to go back. There we go. So I'm able to get off the bottom by pulling back. But if I was to navigate this thing and drive it complete FPV, just strictly FPV, with the iPad, you can see, oh, there's a little Wi-Fi hiccup there, kind of froze and came back. You can see how it's going to be a little bit tough with this one. It's having some kind of weird suction problem. Reverse. Okay, so full throttle up and reverse is how we have to get it off the bottom. So don't really like that. A little bit weird. And you can see the sub when I go up or turn or anything, it's kind of having some lateral issues. You can see how the buoyancy of the whole thing, it's facing upwards. I can see that motor working though, so that depth lock is trying to maintain its depth. But I don't like how even in this super calm water, you see how the sub keeps facing up. Let's just try to navigate strictly FPV to that skimmer in the water. I'm not touching any controls except forward and yaw. Let's see how easy it is to navigate this. Okay, forward. Okay, so that's how difficult that was just to keep that in sights. Let's try that again. So I went back into rate 1, so I have a little bit easier control. Okay. Alright, there's that thing. Let's go down a little bit so we can kind of see this. Okay. So definitely not as easy as if you had a like a regular controller. And that's what they're going to need to do. They're going to need to fix the US Android Wi-Fi channels so we can put an Android device and then also lock on to a Bluetooth hardware controller on that. Another thing I'm seeing is there even a compass on this thing? There may not even be a compass because it's not heading locking. You can see it kind of wandering on the yaw. So I'm trying to keep this thing in view, and when I move, whoop, it's going to get back to the bottom again. Let's go back up. So going up and check it out, the orientation of it, it's sideways, having kind of some trouble keeping level, pointing up at the sky for some reason. So don't really like that. Pointing up at the sky is not good when you're underwater and trying to get something in shot. Let's see again with this skimmer. Okay. You can see that I'm slowly going back and it's turning to the left on its own. It doesn't seem to have any heading lock, and also it's pointing up at the sky again. If I go forward, try to center it again. So I centered it, and let's see if I go strictly just a little bit forward. It's definitely doable, but it's kind of pointing up at the sky. A little bit of Wi-Fi freeze again there. Whoops, just hit the end of the tether. So look at that. So any kind of tether pull also, it just flipped upside down, and it's kind of not able to, there it goes. So now it's self-righting itself. So this one looks like it might be really shaky in any kind of current or rough water is what I'm getting from this already. So if this is, you know, one of the cheaper ones, it may be okay for like a beginner, but look at that, horizontal stability is pretty bad. It's just wandering all over the place when I'm barely touching anything. Forward, letting off. It keeps wanting to push the back end down and pop the front up. And I keep repeating that, but that's kind of just what it's doing. So anyway, let's just zoom around the pool here. Let's try to put in multiple controls. I'm going to go to rate 3. It's the fastest rate. It sure does go fast forward. It's a little bit too fast forward for how much it can turn left and right. So I might want to go into rate 2. forward and turn. So you can see that when I'm going forward and turning, it's just all over the place. So you're just going to do like these weird arcs, and it's just going to start rolling left to right uncontrollably. So you're going to have to kind of try to like stop it and then level out. And then once you get that level again, you can see how it's pointing up. So a little bit strange, and it's not locking its yaw. So it did that whole, it's doing that on its own. It's just floating to the left. And I don't know what it's doing. So not entirely impressive in the pool test, but I'm still going to take it out to the ocean. I don't think there's any compass calibration on this thing that I have seen, but before we go to the ocean, I'll double check that. Even though this only does 1080p maximum, I am liking the camera on the front. We'll see how it does in a little more depth, but in this pool, I mean, it is super calm. I mean, there's no current in here. I don't even have the skimmer on or anything, and it's doing this. There's a little giraffe in view. Okay, and again, we're on the bottom, so it's hard to move. So, hard to get things in view. Okay, well, I'm just going to zoom around a little bit more here. Wow, so we're upside down just because it's... So what happens if we turn upside down? It looks like it's self-righting. So a little bit worried about the turning ability too. It just does not seem very powerful in turning compared to how fast it can go forward. That's maximum yaw. Okay, and look how fast it can go forward though. Let's go actually full reverse. So it can go really fast forward and back. At least it self-rights. Whoa. Okay, that was a little wireless hiccup and it got stuck going forward for like 2 seconds. Okay, full forward. Yeah, it just wants to porpoise and come to the surface. Okay, you can see when I have it on depth hold and I'm not touching it, that middle motor though is trying to keep it at that depth, so that's good. It's just unfortunate that it wants to like bobble forward and bring the front up a little bit. Okay, it does seem like this tether is strong though. I can just pull it up, and doesn't seem like that's gonna really pull out of there, cause any problems. You can kind of see the water draining out. These are the drain holes here. It's just some screen mesh on the drain holes, and that's really just about it. As far as the inlet goes, the water inlet is kind of like here as well. So this is the in and out. So when it's flooding the water inside, it's going to take a while, it looks like, because this is pretty fine screen mesh, and I don't see any other area where the water is going to come in and fill this cavity up. Anyhow, let's talk about a little pros and cons while we got this thing up. First, we'll go through the cons, and there's quite a bit of them actually. So not stable at all on its horizontal axis like this. Its vertical axis actually just coming up and down, it drops really cool. This is a pretty heavy little rover, so it drops good. You remember it got stuck on the bottom, hard to come up unless we go full throttle back and pushing up, so that could be dangerous. The yaw compared to how fast it could go forward and back was, I think, a little too slow. Even in rate 3 it was going like, you know, like this slow compared to just super quick in full forward and full backward motion. When you did give it a full forward thrust, you can see how it would just porpoise up. So if you're trying to cruise in the water, we're gonna have to see how that is in a big open area in the ocean. But it looked like it was pretty unstable. It was just gonna go up and down like this. Same thing coming back, it just wanted to go up like that. The lights, not super bright. So again, the dimmest out of the 3 other ones I've tested so far. 200 or 300 lumens each light. I think 300 lumens each LED, and there's 4 of them. So you're getting a total of like 1200 lumens total, but they're either all the way on or all the way off. So a little bit of a negative. There's no gradation there on the light brightness. I do kind of like the camera though. It is only 1080p, but in the water it looked nice and crisp so far in this pool. That's the only place we've tested it so far, in the pool and out of the water. So the ocean test will give us a good indication of how that camera is and like picking up some coral and some colors in the seawater. And then finally, the yaw was a little bit weird. The other ROVs I've tested, they really have a good lock on that yaw for the compass. So either something's wrong with the compass on this one, or maybe it doesn't have a compass, or not a very good compass, because you could see how it would just kind of drift like this all the time. And then if I was going forward or back, it would just start to drift. And when I would move, it would start to drift a little bit. So as far as stability goes, not that great on this one, even in the super calm pool. So a little bit disappointed in that, just being honest. And you can see there was once in a while like a little Wi-Fi hookup from the buoy to the iPad. It would have like maybe a 1 or 2 second hiccup sometimes. And so if you were like throttling it forward and you let off, it would stay stuck forward for 1 or 2 seconds when it did have that hookup, as well as freeze the video for a sec. So that's something they can kind of tune out in software, but it was doing that in this test here. And then that kind of brings us to the last thing. I couldn't get 3 of my Android devices. I have a LG G6 phone, I have an HTC M8, and I have a Galaxy Tab A tablet. And all 3 of the Android devices could not pick up that buoy for the wireless signal. They couldn't even see it in the Wi-Fi. So I'm stuck using only the Apple Direct on-screen controls. And if you have a ROV like this, underwater ROV, it's really beneficial to have those manual sticks, and I couldn't do that with this one. So hopefully that is going to be something they can fix before this thing reaches the mass market. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that initial test with the Geneinno Poseidon 1 little underwater ROV, and it was informative for you. I had a lot of fun. Even though it's just a small pool, it kind of gave us a taste of how this is going to perform in calm water, and how the controls and all that stuff we talked about really worked. And if you did want to check this out and check out the pricing, I will have the links, don't forget, down in the description for you guys to check out the current pricing and more of the specs on it. If you want to see the full specs at the website, go ahead and check that link down in the description. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the ocean test.